Pass any of these players on the street and you probably wouldn't look twice. Nothing about them screams footballer, let alone world class. Outside of the game, they just don't register. But pull up their trophy cabinet and your jaw hits the floor. These are the greatest players with absolutely no aura outside the sport. Number 10. N'Golo Kante. The trophy list is genuinely difficult to get your head around. Premier League titles, a Champions League, a World Cup winner's medal. One of the most decorated midfielders of his entire generation. And yet, Kante has always felt like someone you'd pass in the supermarket car park and not give a second thought to. There's no celebrity energy, no personal brand push, no attempt to be anything other than a footballer who shows up and does his job. His media coverage has always been about the football, the ground he covers, the balls he wins, the way he makes everything around him look easier. The move to Fenerbahçe got reported the way a transfer gets reported, not as some kind of cultural moment. He's been one of the best players of his era and the wider world has barely noticed. That sums it up pretty well. Number 9. Cole Palmer. Palmer is an interesting case because his complete lack of off-field personality has somehow ended up becoming his personality. Deadpan in interviews, low-key on social media, no big statements, no drama, no sense that he's particularly interested in being a public figure. He shows up, performs at a very high level and gets on with his week. For a young player operating at the level he's at right now, that's pretty unusual. Most players that age with this platform are doing something with it. Palmer doesn't seem bothered. His whole public profile at this point is basically he's very good at football. Whether that changes as his career develops is hard to say, but right now he's a fairly clean example of someone whose game has outpaced any kind of wider recognition. Sees the ball, makes the decision, goes home, that's it. Number 8. Roy Keane. As a player, Keane had nothing to do with celebrity. What he had was intensity, standards, and a short fuse that made teammates as uncomfortable as opponents. His entire reputation was built inside the game, in dressing rooms, on training pitches, in 90 minutes of controlled aggression every week. He never crossed over into mainstream culture during his playing days. He wasn't marketable in any conventional sense. He wasn't polished or particularly interested in being liked. 7 league titles and a Champions League, all earned through sheer force of will and an expectation of the people around him that very few could live up to. His pundit career has made him a public figure only because of the reverence his co-pundits have for him. Even then, you could mistake him for just a regular bloke who has been called to commentate. Who can forget him showing up with his pre-packed lunch? Micah Richards completely lost it. Number 7. Rodrygo. Rodrygo plays for Real Madrid and scores in Champions League knockouts. He turns up in finals and delivers. By any logical measure, he should be a household name well beyond football. But ask a casual fan to picture him and most will draw a blank. His off-field presence is almost non-existent for someone operating at that level. And the uncomfortable reality is that the quiet nature might be costing him on the pitch too. He sacrificed his preferred left-wing position to accommodate the louder, more magnetic Vinicius. Then Mbappe arrived and pushed him further down the pecking order. Even Mastantuono, a teenager, is now competing for that same space. Big talent, low profile. If you're enjoying this one, smash that like button. It genuinely helps us reach more football fans. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now so you don't miss what's coming up next. Number 6. Ousmane Dembele. Dembele is one of the most technically gifted wide players in European football and also one of the hardest to get a proper read on as a public figure. On the pitch, he's unpredictable, direct, and capable of things most players at his level can't do. Off it, he gives you almost nothing. Many people have never even heard him speak. No big persona, no push into mainstream culture, no attempt to build an image that exists beyond the sport. PSG's official profile for him is basically just the functional details: position, number, foot, a brief bio, that's the whole thing. No popular relationship. He just got married, just like that. For someone as flamboyant on the pitch, he really is boring off of it. In a sport where image management has become as much a part of the job as training, the fact that he's never engaged with any of that is genuinely unusual for a player of his quality. Number 5. Jack Grealish. Grealish is a curveball on this list and we know it. Outside football, he really has a messy public image. Grealish was the face of Manchester City's historic 72-hour drinking marathon. He was filmed appearing heavily intoxicated during stops in Istanbul, Ibiza, and the Manchester Trophy Parade, even needing assistance to walk after arriving back in the UK. While at Aston Villa, Grealish crashed his Range Rover into parked cars during a COVID-19 lockdown. Witnesses reported he smelled of intoxicating liquor and was slurring his words. He was later fined over £80,000 and banned from driving. More recently, Grealish was recorded staggering out of a social club near Sunderland, looking worse for wear following an FA Cup victory. Early in his career, he was photographed passed out on a road in Tenerife during a holiday. That right there is negative aura. Number 4, Paul Scholes. If you want the clearest example of what this list is actually about, Scholes is it. Zidane called him the best midfielder of his generation. Xavi said the same thing. Some of the most celebrated players in the history of the game kept pointing back at Scholes as the one they respected above everyone else. And throughout all of that, he never seemed to have that individual star power. At his age, he still looks like a nervous wreck in interviews and not had great progress as a pundit. Compare him to the likes of Micah Richards, Carragher and Neville, and you'd understand what we mean. His entire legacy is just technical respect built up over 20 years at Old Trafford. That gap between how the game saw him and how the public sees him now is probably the best illustration of what this list is trying to say. Number 3, Harry Kane. Kane might be the most straightforwardly normal world-class footballer playing right now. The goal record speaks for itself. Across clubs, across leagues, across major tournaments, he has been one of the most consistent and prolific strikers of his era, and he carries none of the personality or theatrics you might expect from someone at that level. Rarely any change in hairstyle, no fashion statements or sponsorships, nothing. His accent is mocked by many cartoon channels on YouTube, and he's sometimes portrayed as a retard. Fans rate Kane enormously, but you rarely see anyone running onto the field to hug him like they do to Messi and Ronaldo. He does what he does it better than almost anyone, and that appears to be the whole story. No complaints, no noise, just goals. Number 2, Kevin De Bruyne, one of the best midfielders of his generation, and it isn't really close. The output at City over the years, the trophies, the assists, the level he maintained across a long stretch at the top is genuinely hard to argue with, and his public profile is bizarrely understated for someone who achieved all of that. His social skills are non-existent, and he comes off as just a regular bloke who even got cheated on by his partner. He doesn't push a celebrity image. When he does speak publicly, he's direct and practical, not the kind of quotable that gets clipped and shared. If you passed him on the street, you'd probably just keep walking. Number 1, Lionel Messi. Messi at number 1 needs some explanation because obviously the global profile is huge. The fame is real and it's well documented. But here's the thing, strip away the goals, the trophies and the records, and what public personality are you actually left with? Not a great deal. He doesn't perform in interviews. He still does not speak English and has been seen very nervous around beautiful women. The mystique is entirely built on what he does with a football, not on anything he's constructed around himself. Many people who don't watch football recognize Ronaldo easier than Messi. For who's arguably the greatest player of all time, the personal footprint outside of football is surprisingly small. There was a time where Pele and Maradona met to publicly discuss his lack of personality, thinking he did not have what it took to lead Argentina to World Cup glory. That's it, guys. Every player on this list got here by being very good at only football and not much else. No brand, no noise, no personality push, just the work. In a sport that increasingly rewards presence as much as performance, that's worth noticing. Drop your own picks in the comments and we'll see you in the next one.